Hi, folks. I got a bunch of questions through, and originally I looked at it and went, oh, that's a lot of questions. I've got a lot of writing to do. And then I realized I was able to record it. I was like, oh, this is really good. I don't have to do any writing. So I have actually not looked at the questions. I never look at questions before an interview or anything like that. I think it's more fun if I don't know what's coming, and it's more organic. You get a better response. So I honestly haven't looked at them. The only one I can see at the moment is the first one. So I'm going to go through them one by one and answer all your questions here. So, question number one, what inspired you to seek a career in cybersecurity? It was kind of an accident, if I'm honest. Like, I had a background in web development, and I started building web apps in the mid-90s, about as early as I probably could. And I just loved that. And then the pivot to cybersecurity came probably about 2009 when I started writing a blog. And I'd started to have a lot of problems with, how do I put this politely? Cheap and nasty vendors who my company was outsourcing to, and they just had all these terrible security problems. And I just got to the point where I'm like, why do I keep sending individual emails to these people explaining what simple things are? I should put it in a blog. And I didn't expect to actually make that a career in cybersecurity. I had a developer background, and then I was acting as an architect. But, here we are. So I just started writing the blog, and then people actually started to like it, and I was like, I should write more of this. And then I got some Microsoft awards, and the whole thing was, I just realized that there was some traction there. So it was a bit accidental. Not great foresight on my behalf. Number two, what advice would you have for those looking to embark on a career within cybersecurity? I got a blog post for this. In fact, I got a blog post for just about everything. And if you Google Troy Hunt careers in, I think I called it InfoSec or something like that, there is a blog post called Careers in Security, Ethical Hacking and Advice on Where to Get Started. And I wrote this in 2016 after I had just finished a whole bunch of certified ethical hacking content with a mate of mine. We did this series of Pluralsight. And the premise there was that a good place to get started is to go and get a certification like CEH, not because CEH is amazing and it will make you wonderful straight away, but because it is something which is obtainable, it's achievable, particularly those of you who have a technical background, and it gets you on a path. And it's a little bit like I went to university and it got me on a path, and then I found it really wasn't the right place for me, and I pursued a different path. It wasn't the wrong thing to go there, but it got me moving in the right direction. So I reckon go into a certification like CEH. So that was number two. Number three, do you think a college degree is the correct route for this industry, or to focus on certs, and why? What was your path? Told you I didn't read the questions first because I just partly answered that. So college, or as we would say, university, is a pretty natural progression for many people. I'm glad that I did it. I got about 80% of my degree done, actually. And I'm also glad I left. I never have ever once missed leaving. Look, what I think is really different today than 25 years ago is that today there is so much that you can learn independently, demonstrate independently, and then actually go and do professionally without the need to go through formal tertiary education. So I would say that if you need direction to help get you on the right path, I think tertiary education, certs are a good thing, but I would really strongly encourage, maybe there's another question about this later on, really strongly encourage you to do things independently as well. So do things like get involved in open source projects, get involved in forums. When you're allowed to go outside again, go to user groups, answer questions on Stack Overflow, all that sort of stuff. All right, that was three. Four, what personal attributes are most important for a successful career in this industry? I'm trying to think of things I can say on camera because there are a lot of weird characters in this industry. Look, I think to be objective about it, I think people in this industry have a great sense of curiosity where they're intrigued by how things work, intrigued as to whether they can pull them apart or not. I don't think people in this industry sort of see the same barriers as other people, and perhaps that's why there is such an eclectic mix of people in InfoSec. So I think that the curiosity and the willingness to experiment is great. And what I love about this, my father was a pilot. Now, not a lot of wiggle room to experiment as a pilot. So maybe in the simulator or something. But with what we do, I mean, I'm literally sitting here with like PCBs and things sitting here on my desk, like stuff that I can play with that's related to my industry. And if I screw this up, it doesn't matter because it costs me about $5. So I think a willingness to explore and muck around with stuff. Number 5, what would you consider to be your greatest achievement thus far within your career? Ooh, good question. Look, I think have I been pwned sort of the obvious one because that has grown into something substantial, something that has had a really broad impact on the industry and on individuals. Now that was accidental too. Like I didn't sit down one day and go, I'm going to create this massive data breach service and it's going to be famous and it's going to take me places. That wasn't the plan. That was a very kind of accidental, organic process. So I think have I been pwned as a thing that I have created, and I think that maybe one of the most sort of poignant moments or what's the right word for it? Most significant things in terms of my professional experience is going to Congress in the US. Now, this was very strange for me because when they asked if I could go, I was like, I'm an Australian, don't you? Do you really want me to go? But that was an amazing moment because if you're in the US, for most people in other places, what they know of America is what they see in movies. Now, I had seen movies where the White House gets blown up and stuff like that, and that was my understanding of DC. So to actually go there and then be in that environment where Congress sat was amazing. Number 6, if you were leaving school now, would you follow the same path you did? I always have trouble looking back at the things I've done and ever saying that I would do anything differently because I'm happy with where I am. And had I done them differently, I might be somewhere else. But if we were to sort of flip it around again and say, if the world was, back in, say, 95 when I started university, if the world was like it is now, back then, would I have done things differently? What are the big things? All right, there's the really obvious ones, like you can't really go outside and do stuff. So there's that. But things like there's so much more access to information online now. I think that I probably wouldn't have gone to university. Now we're coming back to the tertiary education thing again. And I probably wouldn't have gone because I could have gotten much better access to information than what I had then online now. I think that probably would have changed my path there. I possibly would have been a lot more independent early on. So I spent a lot of my life working as a contractor, and then I spent a total of about 15 years with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and I think from memory about 5 it was as a contractor, then 10 as a permanent employee with side gigs and things as well. And I think I would have done that very differently. Number 7, what can we all do to proactively support more diversity in the security sector? The diversity one's a really hard one. And I'm really, really conscious that there are a lot of very strongly held opinions on this. So I'm very, very careful with what I say. I would get in trouble, I think, if I said this on Twitter. But I think just actively encouraging everyone that you come across to be their best selves. One of the things which I thought I'd done well on the diversity front, but apparently maybe not, is I have a daughter. And I love encouraging my daughter to get involved in all the same stuff as my son. Now, she's nearly 3 years younger than him, so she's a little bit behind developmental-wise, but she also goes to a girls' school. So I would love to have the opportunity to be able to spend more time with her. She's only 8 at the moment. But as she gets older, to spend more time with the girls there, going, look, here's all of the things that I love doing at the moment with my son and his classes as well, and opening their eyes to that. There's actually a little bit of me that kind of hopes that by being in a girls' school, and incidentally, it's not that I wanted different schools, it's just that they were the best ones and they weren't co-ed. But I almost kind of hope that by being in that environment, that they don't have perhaps an influence by male peers, which might suggest that they're not able to achieve the same things or something like that. Maybe that's a vague hope, but we'll see. So I think in summary, what I want to try and do is just give everyone as much encouragement as I possibly can. And it is something that I talk to people a lot about extensively, but I'm just also conscious it is such a volatile topic at the moment. It is very, very hard to have this discussion publicly without someone kicking you in the guts. If anyone wants to know more about that, I'm happy to have one-on-one discussions about some of my experiences.